Hello, and welcome back to the ninth annual online ADHD Awareness Expo. My name is Deb Burdick, also known as the Brain Lady, and I'm delighted to be speaking again at this year's Expo. It's an amazing forum for spreading the most recent and update information about ADHD. In a moment, I will introduce myself and share my three favorite ways to thrive with ADHD. But first, I'd like to remind you to stop by the online exhibit hall and just sign up for the free virtual goodie bag filled with surprise gifts from the ADHD awareness speakers and sponsors. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and my background so you know whether to believe me or not. I'm a best-selling, award-winning author of many books on mindfulness skills and on non-medication treatments and skills for ADHD. In fact, my latest book, Mindfulness for Kids with ADHD, is being released in October of this year. I've been teaching mindfulness skills and skills for ADHD to mental health practitioners and educators for the past 6 years, and I am now retired from 25 years of my private practice on psychotherapy and neurofeedback practice, where I helped thousands of clients of all ages with ADHD. I also raised my daughter who had ADHD, and she taught me a lot about ADHD. Please visit my website, www.thebrainlady.com, for some amazing resources, including books, workbooks, CDs and MP3s, audio meditations, all kinds of articles, as well as online training. That's www.thebrainlady.com. Okay, I'd like to share my three favorite ways to thrive with ADHD. And I chose these three. There's so many to choose from, but I've worked with so many folks over the years that these came to the top of being very helpful. The first one is being mindful of the most important thing to pay attention to. What's the most important thing to pay attention to? ADHD often makes it hard to pay attention and stay focused on what needs to be done. So the first step in paying attention is to know what you should be paying attention to. Then you can set your intention to pay attention to that. And when you notice that you've been distracted, which you will be because you have ADHD, then you can remind yourself what you set your intention to pay attention to and bring your attention back over and over and over again. And as you do it, you practice, it gets easier to do it. It becomes more automatic. So I mentioned mindfulness. So what is it and why is it helpful here? One definition of mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in a particular way. And so the mindfulness skills really help us increase our ability to pay attention, which is really helpful for those with ADHD. So to do this, I would start by writing down the most important thing to pay attention to in the various situations and settings and environments that you typically find yourself in. So maybe think about perhaps you're at work and you're working on a work project, and maybe you're on your computer and the phone is ringing and there's people coming to the door and maybe there's some messages coming on the computer, but you set your intention to the most important thing is to get that project done maybe by a certain time. So maybe you close the door, you turn off the phone, whatever those things are, but every time you notice that you are distracted from working on your project, you bring your attention back and pay attention again. And just keep doing that over and over. What about if you're talking with your spouse or your children or your boss or your friends or your coworkers? To be able to pay attention to them, look at them, look at their eyes, look at their mouth, look at their body language, really listen to what they're saying. Avoid picking up that cell phone and think that while you're doing this you can really be paying attention. You can't. Your attention is divided. Put it down and pay attention. Look at them. You pay attention. What's the most important thing to pay attention to when you're driving? When you are getting ready for bed, when you're getting ready to go out in the morning, when you're shopping, when you're driving. just think of all the different places that you go each day. And then once you have written down the different situations you find yourself in and what the most important thing to pay attention to is, maybe circle the three ones that you have the most difficulty paying attention in, and really choose those to start this skill with. So, excuse me. The second one is sort of a lifestyle um, item that I grouped three different things in. I put exercise, nutrition, and sleep in this one. So let's start with exercise. Why does exercise help ADHD? Exercise helps the brain by increasing the neurotransmitters dopamine and norepinephrine, both of which play a leading role in regulating, guess what? The attention networks. Daniel Amen states he has seen a direct relationship between the amount of exercise a person gets and the severity of their ADHD symptoms. Participating in a favorite sport or physical activity can improve eye-hand coordination, concentration, planning, organizing, decision-making, confidence, and impulse control, all things that folks with ADHD can benefit from. Research at the University of Illinois found that exercising actually improved reaction time and increased the size of brain size by 3%. So now that you know that exercise is important for helping ADHD symptoms, maybe it's time to take a closer look at how to reap the benefits of exercise. So start by setting an intention to add regular exercise into your schedule. You might look at what exercise is already taking place. Do you have an exercise routine in place already? Do you walk and park farther away so you can walk more? Do you take the stairs instead of the elevator? Really think about finding ways to incorporate 30 to 40 minutes a day, 3 or 4 days a week into your life. And then put it on your calendar and schedule and make sure that it happens. And make sure the activity that you choose actually gives you exercise. There's a lot of team sports out there where a lot of the time is spent waiting to play, and you're not really getting the exercise that you need to benefit for ADHD. The second is nutrition. So why? Brains need fuel, and ADHD brains can be very sensitive to certain types of nutrition. It's good to have protein, veggies, fruits, dairy, grains. It's really helpful to avoid artificial colors and sugar and caffeine because they can tend to dysregulate the brain. The artificial colors can increase hyperactivity. Sugar can make you feel great for a little while, and then as it decreases in your bloodstream, it dumps you, and now you just feel lethargic and you can't concentrate, can't get anything done. Caffeine is very often a very it is a stimulant and it helps with concentration, but it is addictive and it is dysregulating. So better to avoid all three of those to help regulate your brain. It turns out there are four major deficiencies that have been found to be common in folks with ADHD. They are magnesium, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, and iron. So you can be tested for those to see if you're deficient and then eat more foods with those or actually add supplements to get them. Again, magnesium, zinc, omega-3 fatty acids, and iron. The third here is sleep. Why? Again, it's very common to have trouble falling asleep. Very often, folks with ADHD are very too activated. They can't just turn themselves down and calm themselves down. My daughter had a lot of trouble with this, and I used sleep meditations for her. That would be very helpful for her to just get herself calmed down enough to sleep. Um, so, how do you get enough sleep? First, you need to know how much sleep do you need. Do you need 8 hours, 9 hours? Is 6 enough for you? 6 is kind of the minimum. Try noticing how you feel and how you function with various amounts of sleep. Folks with ADHD tell me routinely that not getting enough sleep can multiply their ADHD symptoms exponentially. So set up the bedroom for sleep and nothing else. Get rid of the TV, the computer, anything else there is to do in the bedroom besides sleep and possibly sex. And that way you'll start to associate the bedroom with sleep. Design yourself a nighttime routine. What time do you need to have everything done for the next day so that you can start getting ready for bed, start calming down yourself down, turning the lights down, getting ready to get into bed, and so forth. Then go to bed and get up at that same time, every day, every day, every day. Sleep is a creature of habit. It's going to be better if you can get into a regular routine. Find it easier to go to sleep and get up at the same time. Then be careful to avoid stimulating foods and drinks and even stimulant medications that may interfere with you being able to go to sleep. For me, even eating some grains before I get will give me too much energy. You might have to talk to your prescriber to see if you can change the timing on your medications if they're too activating. Then you can listen to a sleep meditation to calm down and let yourself fall asleep. The third of my favorite ways to thrive with ADHD is neurofeedback. I'm a board certified neurofeedback practitioner. I was able to get my daughter, she was my first client when she was 13, um, off medications, and she later when she was on the dean's list for 3 years in college with no medications, and I've helped, like I said, hundreds, probably thousands of clients reduce and oftentimes eliminate medications for ADHD, and many of them couldn't take the medications in the first place. So, what is neurofeedback? Neurofeedback is a kind of biofeedback on brain waves. And first, we do an assessment of the brain waves, looking at the brain waves and comparing them to normative databases and seeing what's going on in that brain. Does those brain waves look like somebody that has ADHD, as there are some patterns that are typical of ADHD. Then seeing what maybe the frontal part of the brain is running a little bit too slow, which is common in ADHD, and there are a couple of other specific patterns. Then we can design a training protocol where we place sensors on your head that send your brain waves to the computer, and you control a video game or make a video, a movie go based on what your brain waves are doing. So when your brain waves are doing what I'm asking you to do, you get rewarded. This is operant conditioning by points. The game motion beeps. The rocket flies, or perhaps if you're watching a movie, you can see the movie instead of just hearing the sound. And pretty soon your brain figures out how to make the game go or the movie play, and your brain waves change into more healthy patterns. And you have to do it again and again and again. That's why you're learning a new thing. Your brain is learning something new. You have to do it until it sticks. But the great thing about it is once you've reached that point, you don't need to keep doing it to have the benefits persist, unlike medications, which wear off as soon as then you need to take it again. So it helps by teaching the brain to regulate itself better. How do you find a provider? There are a lot more providers out there now than there were when I started. So bcia.org is the Biofeedback Certification International Alliance. That's one of the major board certification organizations, and you can find providers on there. That's bcia.org. And look for providers with the credentials of BCN after their name instead of BCB. BCB is biofeedback, but BCN is neurofeedback. Also, the International Symposium on Neurofeedback Research, that's isnr.org. They list providers that are members of that. And if you just do a search online, uh, you can look for a neurofeedback provider and then make an appointment and or talk to them and see what if they do treat ADHD and what their success rate is and what kind of neurofeedback they use and so forth. So let's finish up and quickly review. We talked about being mindful of what the most important thing is to pay attention to, and then setting your intention to pay attention to that, and then when you're distracted, bringing attention back to it. And the second, we talked about nutrition and sleep and exercise. And the third is neurofeedback, to add neurofeedback to your treatment mix. So thanks for your attention. Please check out my website for some wonderful resources. That's www.thebrainlady.com. And be sure to check out the online expo for those goodies. Talk to you later. Thanks a bunch.